Dumelang, ke rata ho le amohela hape videong ya ka ya bobedi. I'd like to welcome you on my second video. And if you haven't seen my first one, please go ahead and watch it. We were basically just talking about the sense of community. Le hore community e aha jwang motho. You know, you aha jwang the values tsa hao and your personality and your character and just how important community is. But today we're going to be talking about mental health in these communities. And remember, what I was talking about really was that community can mean anything, can start from, it actually starts, the community starts from Ohai Lapeng in the house. That's your first ever community, and then your neighborhood, and then your region, and the rest of the world. Because as the world, we are a community. I'd like to believe, right? So today we will work out how these communities, how do they impact our mental health, and how do they nurture or help us nurture, rather help us learn how to nurture ourselves and our own mental health, right? So first of all, importantly, what I would like to point out is actually the fact that when a child is born, they're born with their own set of traits, their own set of mentality, their own set of genes, right? And as everybody would know, bana ha ba tshwane, abantwana abafani endlini. Children are not the same in the house. Children are going to be born and they're going to have different traits, and they're going to have different characteristics, and personalities. So therefore, what's important is that every child is given attention based on the kind of personality traits that they show, the kind of characteristics that they show. And I believe that this is literally the foundation, the important foundation, where now we can understand each and every individual in the household differently. Singazususa wonke umuntu ngendlela yokuthi okay, siyazi ukuthi lo unjena, lona unjena, and this is how we approach this one, and this is how we approach to this one. And I'm only saying this now because I believe this is something we can go back to and doing. And if currently you're at a point in your life where you've never had that, I believe many of us have never had that, because also as a community, we haven't really had much positivity when it comes to mental health. We've only been exposed to surviving our circumstances. We've been exposed to survival mode, you know, in terms of our history as a country and just everywhere in the world. Historically, what has been happening is that people have been surviving, people have been trying to keep their heads above the water when it comes to survival, right? But mental health, not really. I think mental health has been neglected, has been easily neglected in that way. So what we're going to do here is to talk about it and confront it, talk about mental health in a way that sort of gives a certain perspective that gives life and hope and meaning into our lives, right? So what I mean by that is, like I said, going back to talking about when a child is born, we were all born with different traits, with different characters, with different personalities. And I think the most common thing in households that you find is that parents have this thing of comparing children. Yeah, it is hectic. I don't know where this thing comes from. I really, really, for the life of me, I literally try always to think about how things can be positive. And this comparing thing, honestly, there's like only one thing I can come up with. It's like, okay, cool. Um, say maybe scientifically, right? When doctors are trying to find like a cure, or maybe when doctors are trying to understand development in children, right? And then they will say typically at 6 months old, a child must now be at least be able to sit up straight, or maybe be able to with their belly, like resting on their belly, they should be able to raise their heads. typically, and this is just only like a typical exaggeration of what most children do at 6 months. And at 1 year, they should all be walking and maybe attempting to speak and right. But this is only just based on tests. This was like a hypothesis at some point, went through tests and but it doesn't really just like narrow down life, and it's not always as accurate because sometimes some children speak at a very early stage and some at a later stage. And I believe it's important to give ourselves grace, to give our children grace, and to say, okay, cool, my child is like this. My child's development is going this way, and this is what I'm going to focus on. These are the things I'm going to do to focus on my child's development. What the nurses and the doctors are trying to help us is just understand what typically should be happening at a certain time, and also help us detect when things are not going the way they should, and also know how to help the children when they're facing problems. But in a case where it's simple things like milestones, reaching milestones, right? I believe, like, I see a lot of parents just have this um panic yokuthi mina umntana kabani bani nomntana wami they were born in the same year, maybe even in the same month, but their child is speaking and mine isn't. Their child is walking and mine hasn't walked yet. Their child is eating this kind of food and mine doesn't really want to eat this kind of food. It starts there. It literally starts there, where now it's like, oh, is mine not normal? Does mine have a problem? We are already having these expectations. We have this sort of like pedestal that we're all trying to hit at the same time. And I don't think it's fair for children being born and already just like, if children knew when they were born that, oh, like, if one mind's when I should be speaking, because when you are umzali wakho nje uzofila right mokwenza magical things at a certain time. But what I want to debunk, honestly, and I went through this as a mother, I would typically just like panic and think, oh my goodness, at this time, is this normal? Some children are doing this. It's normal, but I've come to a point where I've realized that it's really not fair on my baby and on myself as well, because I'm just like, why then do I mean, that child is beautiful and they're going through their milestones, and it's beautiful. We love that, right? We should be, as a community, be able to build children and add positively into their lives, so that when we know Uguti, that one is typically they take time for their milestones to know that baby and to be like, okay, well, that one's Uguti, Unjena, and it's perfectly normal. And even when we've gathered around, we know just how to treat each and every child. I believe it starts there. I really do. I really believe it starts at childhood, because some of the adults at this point are still struggling with childhood traumas. Some adults at 50 are still struggling comparison. A 50-year-old man or 50-year-old woman still feels like, kumele mina ngivele ngaphezulu vele nje. Whether it's at work, whether it's in social gatherings, whether it's with friendships or family, they feel like angibonwa, anizwa, kumele nje ngivele nje on top. It's because of that thing that was like wired in them a very long time ago. And like I said, typically, I don't know where this panic comes from. I don't know why parents panic so much, honestly. And I think the minute you start debunking, the minute you start like sees comparing your child to other children, that's when you can see how beautiful your child is. That's when you can get to experience their development. You get to understand them. You get to learn their language. You get to learn how they move and the things they want and how they want them and how they need them. You get to fall in love with this human being without you thinking, oh my goodness, what are we doing today? Where are we getting things that are going to make us fat real quick? Or, I feel like genes, man, genes. If we understand that, I think we should start understanding our genes, yourself. How were you when you were growing up? What are the things you went through? Your partner, their genes and all of those things. Understand your baby that way and love your child that way. Because even if your baby is going through a difficult time, I believe this approach will help you navigate through this tough time with positivity and with hope and with inquisitiveness, inquisitive, I don't know, with inquisitiveness, with like the passion and wanting to understand. So if she's going through this, then just focus on your baby and your baby's health. And I believe it starts there, man. I do believe it starts there. And you don't get to be so scared of now societal opinion. Societal opinion, it shouldn't, if you yourself are able to say, I ngiyakuzwa uthi ingane yami Nkosi yami ikhanda lakhe nje elikhulu and it's not supposed to be that size. But me, in my understanding, is that Umtanami has this condition and this is how we're helping him get through it. And he's gonna know or she's gonna know. It is completely normal. It's generic. We can't always make ourselves suffer or torture children for things that happen to them generically or naturally. That they should understand that self-love, self-care, and being patient with oneself is a thing of the now. It's in demand. It's in demand that children love themselves and they understand themselves and they're able to celebrate others when others are like succeeding before them and they're doing big things. They should look at that as motivation. As mommy, one day I want to do like someone is doing. Mommy, one day I want to do this. Maybe mommy. You know, and just sort of feed into their mentality. That's where it starts. Believe me, that's where it starts. Because if not, all right, listen to me. If not, if a child grows up believing and knowing that they are a burden, that oh my goodness, you just have so many issues with you. It's this, it's not this, it's that. When are you gonna be normal like other kids? When are you gonna behave like other kids? Already that sort of soothes and into their DNA, into their minds, into their personality. They grow up knowing that I'm a nuisance. And that's why they become problematic. Some children become very problematic, knowing that it doesn't matter what a teacher says at school. I know I'm problematic. I know I'm a nuisance. I already know that my mom just like wishes I was different because the one mistake we also do is that we think children will start to understand things at a later stage. It's in behavioral cues. They start to learn behavior. They start to learn cues. They start to, they get clues from mood swings, from energy, from, they can tell that, I think a baby can tell if you're too tired all the time. If you're always fatigued and depressed and you're tired, a baby can tell, right? And we don't think that. We don't know that. We just think they're just a baby, they're just crying and they're such a nuisance and they're making a lot of noise. But in actual fact, they can tell, they know, right? So it starts there and then going forward, you can now learn that, okay, maybe my baby has problems reading, right? This is what we typically call dyslexia in the mental health space. They have a difficulty reading, they have a difficulty grasping some ideas, or maybe writing, maybe reading and writing, right? And that's okay. You cannot open their brains and take screws and restructure and rewire. We have all been structured in a way that's like expecting everybody to behave in a linear way where you get born, you grow up healthy and showing certain traits, go to school, be smart, go to work, and contribute to the world's economy. That's literally what we all think. It's like life is so linear. But oh my God, lo and behold, life is so diverse. It's colorful. It's beautiful. Literally, like if you look at nature, there's rivers that are able to rejuvenate themselves. There's trees that get carbon dioxide, which is life for them, and they give out oxygen. There are birds that can make their own sort of little shelters. Honestly, like, why do you then think life is supposed to just be a straight line? Why is life always about the economy? Why is life always about if an individual is able to contribute to a society economically, then that person is normal. And if not, then angeke. Umzwalo, umthwalo. Do you get me? But we also then the problem now is we think that's just one type of person that can do that. But then, like I said, if your child can't read or can't write, what can they do? What is it that you see? Can you teach them music? Can you buy them a piano? Can you buy them drums? Can you buy them a sketch and a pen for drawing? Can you do that with so much grace and love and positivity? You know, um, can your child sing as they grow up? What are the talents that your children has? What are the positive things that you can see in your baby that you can nurture? Do you get me? And I also believe in schools as well, do children have these opportunities to be understood?